Hey everybody, I thought it might be fun in this video to use some products that I remember being some of the very first I had ever used when I first started doing makeup back in the late 90s. Yes, it would have been when I was in like 7th grade. I remember first getting into some makeup, and what kind of got this idea rolling was me being in Walmart recently and seeing this product. The CoverGirl CG Smoothers, now it's called a BB cream, but then I think they just called it a tinted moisturizer, but it was packaged just like this. It really looked like this. This has an SPF 21 now. I have it in the shade light to medium, and I thought I'm gonna buy that again because like I remember having that so long ago and that being kind of a starter product for me. And you know what? Nobody really steered me to anything. In terms of like product guidance, I remember mom had kind of gotten me going on blush before a family picture once, but I honestly don't remember being steered to anything. I just remember reading magazines and maybe I got some ideas from there, but this would have been a very appropriate thing to start with. And I don't think there were lots of different tinted moisturizers. Like now there's tons. Back then there weren't so many, but there was this. And I remember that being a very early thing for me. I remember also eventually getting into some of those CoverGirl compacts like a powder foundation or a cream to powder foundation. But I noticed just in my collection, I do have some certain things that take me back to the very beginning. And I thought, let's use them and let's just put together a look based on that idea. So yeah, we're gonna use our CoverGirl CG Smoothers. Somebody told me they were getting rid of this, but my Walmart store, which has recently completely overhauled the beauty section, they definitely have plenty of this in stock. Okay, I'm gonna need more than that. This is a barely there coverage product, by the way. I remember it being that way back in the day, and I'm not expecting a lot out of this. Now, back then, did I have any makeup brushes? In the beginning, definitely not. I do remember when I first got some decent brushes, and we were at my grandparents' house, Ma and Papa's. They played that game where there'd be all the presents in the middle, and somebody would take one and unwrap it, and then the next person could either take a new gift or they could steal the gift from the person who just unwrapped it. And it was in that game that I got a set of Mary Kay makeup brushes because my cousin sold Mary Kay, and they were good brushes. There was a powder brush, a blush brush, I think 2 eye brushes. One was a crease brush, one was maybe like an angled brush or something, and then like a brow spoolie. And they came in their own little brush holder. And I believe I was in high school when I got that. So when I would have first been using this, I probably would have just blended it in with my fingers. Now I'm definitely gonna use a brush. This is my e.l.f. buffing foundation brush. But yeah, I definitely want a good long while just on applicators. But look, this is giving like the lightest, most sheerest coverage ever. But it's something. And it would have been a nice thing to start out with. I guess knowing what I know now, if you want a little more bang for your buck and a little more going on your skin, I'd say Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator, but this does contain some SPF and it's giving your skin a little extra moisture. Also, skincare. I didn't have any like skincare or moisturizer going on underneath my makeup, so it was probably really good that at some point in time I was using this because it actually is moisturizing to the skin. Now on concealer, I do remember my very first concealer. I believe it was called Invisible from CoverGirl. Yes, CoverGirl felt like my go-to brand. Anyone else? I don't know why it was CoverGirl. For some reason, it just felt approachable. I mean, we're talking outside of Bonnie Bell and Jane. Jane was getting its start probably when I was in high school. But there was this CoverGirl Invisible concealer with the doe foot applicator, and I remember it not doing that much. And I also remember getting into those Maybelline twist up stick concealers that were super duper dry. The best current version of a product like that would probably be the CoverGirl CG Smoothers concealer stick, or Almay has a good concealer stick too, or Neutrogena. But I'm going to use this CoverGirl one because, like I said, CoverGirl was kind of my brand starting out. And again, I'm sure I would have blended that in with my fingers. Maybe I should be doing that method, but I just don't feel like it. I like my brushes now. But it's just funny how, like, I don't recall asking for guidance. I just kind of, like, every so often when we'd be in Walmart, I'd say, Mom, can I get this powder? And I slowly built a bit of a collection, thing by thing, it felt like. And it might have been a couple years before I got into any actual concealer, but that stuff I just put on is certainly better than any other stick concealer I tried in that era. And then on powder, Powder was an early thing I definitely did get. One of my first things was one of those CoverGirl Clean powders, which I have one. Actually, it's in a purse somewhere. The CoverGirl Clean Pressed Powder, it does not any longer smell like Noxzema, my friends. And I don't think I even knew the concept of really setting things. I just thought like, okay, people wear powder, so I'll wear powder too. Here's another, like, I know earlier one to me. It's the Rimmel Stay Matte. This is in Creamy Natural. And today I'm just going to use that since I have it up here. I'm going to use it on my under eyes. I know I would have powdered my T-zone because I was starting cheering in 7th grade. And I remember having games and stuff and knowing I was getting sweaty. And I remember powdering my face after something like this or one of those little compact makeups from CoverGirl. I'm just using this little brush because sometimes I feel like a brush works better going into Rimmel Stay Matte compared to a powder puff. It just stirs the powder up a little bit more. Bronzer took me a while to get into. I want to say I was well into high school before I tiptoed into bronzer, and I think it's probably because not a lot of bronzer was even being sold. I'm going to take a Rimmel Natural bronzer today and use that since it's probably one of the first ones I could remember buying, and this is in Sun Bronze. And I'm just going to pick some of that up with my angled brush and use that around the hairline. But yeah, it was blush. Blush was a definite key product for me, and it was always CoverGirl Cheekers. There was a shade called Pretty Peach, which I don't believe is available anymore. But one beauty tip my mom passed along was that peach blush looks good on everyone. Pretty Peach was a definite peachy pink color, actually. So here I am just gently bronzing. I'm seeing all my freckles, but my skin really looks good. The concealer worked where I needed it to. I can't wait to hear what you guys remember as some of your first products you used. If we're talking first before like legit makeup, it was definitely lip smackers. That was the gateway. A lot of my earliest things like are not even out there anymore. Like I don't have a Dr. Pepper lip smacker right now. I wish I did. Got a gentle bronze going. That's fine. And then I pulled out one of the CoverGirl Cheekers blushes that I have that kind of reminds me of the intensity of Pretty Peach. This is more pinky than that. This is called Classic Pink. But yep, with the included brush, I know I did use the included brush for a time. And I remember using it to the point that, like, instead of looking like this, it looked larger because the bristles had kind of, like, gone out, like, been directed outward. Yes, I'm doing it. David, I'm doing it. Putting on some of this. Oh my gosh. I do remember doing this. Before I had brushes, it was all applicators or fingers. Okay, that was fun. Elf blush brush. Come back. I feel like there's so much more out there now for brushes than there used to be though. Like you can find great, really affordable brushes. No problem. Between Profusion and Elf and Real Techniques and Eco Tools, generic house brands and Dollar Tree, you can get affordable brushes. Back then I just wasn't even thinking about it. Looking good, looking good. I never really did much with my brows for a long time, except pluck them way too thin. Probably had a decent brow in junior high, but once I got into high school, they just started getting thinner and thinner. So maybe I'll use what I should have done with my brows. But again, it kind of comes back to, there were not so many brow products out, you know? I'm using this CoverGirl Clean Fresh Nano. Did some brow pencils exist? Yes, but it wasn't like a part of makeup that I felt motivated to try. And I was reading my little magazines and thin brows were in. So basically once I got my unibrow taken care of in junior high, it was like, okay, we're gonna have thin brows for a while. Fortunately for me, they grew back. But I guess I'm going to give myself the brow maybe I should have had. What I can recall is as I was getting my brows back, which might have been the start of my YouTube days, was starting to get my brows back, I used a matte L'Oreal dark brown eyeshadow. And I held it together with like a little rubber band or something because the lid had broken off. And I would just use that with the included sponge tip and kind of like on its side, like wedge it into my eyebrow. And that became my first ever brow fill-in. And that is the legend of my eyebrows. I did own a CoverGirl Clear Mascara though, but I think I literally, and I remember my friends doing this too, earliest days of makeup, we were using it on our lashes because we really thought it was doing something. And then I moved into CoverGirl Professional Lash Mascara in the blue tube. You might still be able to get that. I don't currently own that though. Now for eyeshadow, I'm gonna prime. I had no such eye primer back then, but I'm gonna put on some Milani eyeshadow primer today. And I think you know what's coming. My CoverGirl loving self definitely owned Shimmering Sands. And then in high school, I got into a blue single from CoverGirl. I think it might have been called Sterling Blue or something like that. It was kind of shimmery. And I thought it really looked good. And I just put it on my lids, you know, I didn't go wild with it. But, yeah. CoverGirl Shimmering Sands. I also, in high school, I got into some really bronzy colors. They had a trio called Golden Sunset or Golden Sunrise, something like that. And I hit pan in that thing. I bought multiple. But this was probably a first. I can remember standing there looking at CoverGirl eyeshadows. And you got your little applicator. One side has kind of a more rounded sponge tip and one has a more formed tip. And once I got my crease brush from Mary Kay, I was probably going in and getting some of that, and God knows how I was doing with those brushes. But I do remember makeup getting easier for me once I had those. I really didn't know what I was doing with eyeshadow. And I'm just going back and forth in my crease with that deepest shade. This is how I'd wear it now. I'm not sure how I was wearing it then, except for, you know, probably a lot of shimmer on the lid, and that was that. Okay, I'm going to grab some of that lighter shimmer, and that can be up here. I know I've pulled in Shimmering Sands for other throwback looks and just random looks on my channel, so you've seen me use it before. Sorry, this brow needs a little lift. And then I'm going to take my sponge tip. I'm going to take some of the lightest one and first work that in right here. Around the inner corner. It's actually a decent inner corner brightening shade. Nothing takes you straight back like using the applicators in your CoverGirl makeup. If you really want to be transported, do that. I'm going to take the bigger end now and go to the middle shade, and that will become the rest of my lid. That's still a pretty light color, you know. But I love that Shimmering Sands is still being sold to this day. It makes me happy. It maybe makes me feel slightly less old. I'm patting some of the deeper shade out here. To people who would like me to not have a dark outer corner one time, here you go. It's really not dark. Eyeliner was not an early makeup thing for me. I remember getting into CoverGirl Perfect Point Plus with the smudgy tip and then the liner tip on the other end, but that took me a while. Kind of like bronzer, you know, it took me a while to get into that. I need to blend more here somehow. Shimmering Sands is so hard to mess up, but yet I do think I need to blend it a little more. But we're going to go into a mascara. I want you to pretend this is the CoverGirl Professional Lash. I'm going to use a way better one from CoverGirl that's currently sold called Exhibitionist Stretch and Strengthen. I'm pretty sure I bought CoverGirl Professional Lash because Shannon had CoverGirl Professional Lash. If you're out there, Shannon, thanks for the inspo. What's interesting is, why was it CoverGirl for so many people and not Revlon or L'Oreal? I wasn't seeing my friends going around using L'Oreal and Revlon. I think CoverGirl was a little bit cheaper than those other lines too. But see, this is good. When did I first start using a lash curler? I want to say it wasn't right off the bat. So my lash efforts were kind of in vain, probably at the start. That's funny. I really can't remember when eyelash curling came into the picture for me. Hopefully in high school sometime. Never got into false lashes until, gosh, I remember first trying those out when I started my YouTube channel. And it wasn't even at the very beginning of my YouTube channel, but like as I was watching other people use them, I kind of learned myself. Late high school and college would have been the time I got more savvy with trying different brands and kind of learning what was good and not so good and caring about it quite a bit. And I remember in college absolutely loving that L'Oreal Double Extend mascara with the 2 steps. And I'm sorry if you've heard some of these stories before because I have done other kind of throwback types of videos, but in college was when I first started writing makeup reviews for things online, because before I would buy a product, before I would head down to the Monmouth Shopco and try something, I would usually look up its review online. When I would type into the search engine, I don't know that it was necessarily Google at that time, but I would search the product, and then usually a website called makeuptalk.com would come up, and there would be reviews. They had like forums, makeup forums, and they had reviews. And I began leaving reviews as well for different things that I would try. And I was a busy college student. I mean, I had cheer, and I was in Pi-Fi, and I was doing the campus TV station, and of course all my classes, but somehow I found the time to keep my MySpace profile updated and to also leave the occasional multi-paragraph review on a random product I tried. That was before YouTube even existed. That was just, you know, an online way of getting makeup information. I also loved my magazines. But let me know if you ever looked on Makeup Talk for makeup reviews, because if you did, maybe you read one of mine. I really tried to review almost everything. Okay, I've got a couple coats here. I'm going to put some e.l.f. lash extender on my lower lashes. This is a really natural eye look, isn't it? But this is what my first makeup kind of would have been like. There wasn't any major statement thing going on. Next, for lips, like I said, a lot of things came from Bonnie Bell and lip smackers. That would have been the earliest range, and that's stuff I don't really have. I also was into just generally like a bronzy colored lip. Remember CoverGirl had something called, I think it was Lip Slicks lip gloss or something. They were little twist up tubes. The bronzy one was yellow, I remember. And then they had like some soft pearly pinks and different shimmery things. And that felt like a big girl's tinted lip balm, you know? I'm just gonna pull another early-ish tinted lip balm from my collection. I remember having and using the Neutrogena ones that were shaped like ovals. Burt's Bees would be another one that could fall into that category. This one is called Petal Glow. I repurchased this one fairly recently because it's in the new packaging. But yeah, moving from the world of just using a lip smacker to actually something with a little color. It was this kind of look. I feel like I need to blend right in here a little bit better. I don't know. You know what? I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the look. Some light coverage, a decent concealer, something to set it with, some bronzer blush, shimmering sands, baby, yes. Some of the earliest makeup I can remember using that's still available to this day. Obviously we had to do some filling in, generally use some brushes where I didn't use brushes before, but it's funny how some memories seem foggy, like trying to think back to this or that. You know, the memories are more vague, but my memories of makeup are always pretty strong. I think that's cool. I can remember the placement of the beauty section in the Macomb Walmart and the Burlington Walmart very clearly. For all of you West Central Illinois and Southeast Iowa people, yes, I can just see it right now where the CoverGirl section was located and where the Bonnie Bell was located and the counter with the perfumes and stuff. My takeaway today is just have fun with your makeup, appreciate it. It's fun to think back to those days. And also don't go tweezing those eyebrows too thin. Just because Pamela Anderson did it doesn't mean you need to do it too. Thank you guys so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. I love you. Bye.